英語会話。
Hello everyone, welcome to our English conversation program. How are you today? I hope you're fine. It's time for me to be back to bring you another coffee break discussion. Here with me are
Sue Wanwick
and Tony Newell.
Let's have fun talking over a cup of coffee.
Once Professor Reischauer said while he was in Tokyo as the American ambassador to Japan that every time he had difficulty in understanding Japanese, oddly enough, it turned out to be the so-called English.
You mean loan words?
Yes, that's right. Some of the examples he gave at that time were sumato or base appu and BG or OL.
Yes, I'm not really surprised to hear that because when I talk with my students in English, I'm often a little bit puzzled at some of those English words being used to mean entirely different things. I remember, for example, me to a nearby coffee shop, and he said something like, the pine juice there is very good. Of course, what he meant was pineapple juice, but in English, pine juice is the juice of a pine tree. I don't know what that would taste like. Another example is training pants, which in original English, yes, that originally meant the pants that go over the baby's nappy. I think that what people really mean is the bottom half of that type of clothing, which we call a tracksuit. Do you call it a tracksuit in the States?
Yes, a tracksuit or a warm-up suit.
Yes, that's right.
Sounds like we're going to talk about loan words or Japanese English.
Okay, that's right. I think we're ingenious when it comes to coining new words, particularly from English words, and I sometimes wonder if people in the United States of America and England do the same thing with your mother tongue English.
Oh, yes, certainly we do. I'm not sure if we do that to the same degree as here in Japan, but certainly English has borrowed thousands of words from other languages, French, German, Latin, all sorts of other languages. And that, I think, is one reason why English has come to have a rather rich vocabulary. I think, though, it's a perfectly normal process for any language to enlarge its vocabulary by adopting or borrowing new vocabulary items, anything which captures the fancy of the native speakers.
So if we take in a new, say, idea or concept in particular, which is existent only in that particular language, then inevitably we'll have to use the original one.
Yes, that's right. For example, in English, we've borrowed quite a bit from Japanese. Words like typhoon, kimono, rickshaw, tsunami, and of course a lot of words to do with the martial arts, but all with anglicized pronunciation. We say karate and judo.
Kendo, yes.
That's right.
In American English, too, we've borrowed a lot of words from other languages, and now we use them as part of our English. Many of these words, of course, were adopted a long time ago. But for instance, from Indian vocabulary, we gained some words because our early settlers had so much contact with the Indian people. And especially in the beginning, they had to learn a lot from the Indians just to survive in new land. Well, a tomahawk is an example of an Indian word that's a weapon that looks something like an axe, and a more modern one would be a powwow.
Powwow? What do you mean?
Powwow.
Sounds like an onomatopoeia, doesn't it?
I don't know exactly what the Indians meant by it, but we use it informally to mean a kind of meeting.
Oh, so let's have a powwow then after the recording tonight over a glass of beer.
Can we? Would be. Or to discuss business.
Yes, and it's often used, isn't it, to make peace after war. Is that right?
Or passing a peace pipe or something.
Yes, that's right.
And the round pointed tents we still call teepees. And to carry a baby on your back, as the Japanese do here, we call that carrying the baby papoose style.
Ah, yes, that's right.
I didn't know that. I thought TP stands for toilet paper.
I think there's a difference in the stress. that's an Indian
Oh, is that
teepee.
right?
Or I bought some TP.
That's how stressing the words is very important.
Right.
I see. 今日は、Japanese English、特に、その loan words というふうなことを中心にお話をしておりますが、これは有名なお話ですが、来社は教授が日本に滞在中に、自分は日本語で、よくわからないことがありますが、その大概の場合にはその英語の言葉ですというふうなことをおっしゃったことが非常に印象的だったわけですが、その中で例えばスマートであるとか、ベースアップであるとか BG であるとか OL であるとか、そういう例をお挙げになったわけですね。それで大切なことは、こういう言葉があくまでも日本語に入ってきました場合にはもうそれは英語ではないわけですから、日本語としてそれを我々は使っていくということに気をつけなければいけません。例えば、面白い例としましては先ほどのパインジュース、これはパイナップルジュースのことですが、パインジュースでは意味が通じません。それからトレーニングパンツということをよく言いますが、これは、英語ではトレーニングパンツと言いますと幼児、つまり、子供がおしめの上にする、パンツのようなものですね。そういうものを言いますから、決して私たちが考えているような、体操着のようなものを指しません。でそういうふうに特に英語として、意味はあるけれども日本語で使われている意味とそれから元の英語の意味との間に非常に開きがあるというふうなものの場合にも十分に気をつけなければいけないわけですね。それからインディアンの言葉からもアメリカ英語にはたくさん入っております。タマホークという言葉が出てきました。これは戦争の時に使う武器の斧ですね。それからパウワー、これはちょっとした会合のこと。TP と言いますと、これをインディアン風のテントのことに使っているわけですね。So back to talking about the so-called Japanese English in the light of what you have just mentioned, it is not at all an undesirable tendency to use newly coined words of English origin in Japanese, but the most important thing is that we should not regard them as a part of English vocabulary.
Yes, that's absolutely right. I think people should be clearly aware that those loaned words are no longer English. By being used by Japanese speakers in a Japanese conversation, I think they've really become part of Japanese vocabulary.
So if somebody says, like, I am more smart or I am smarter than my brother, then probably what he means is I'm a bit dandier or fancier. But in English, I would think it should mean I'm more bright. Am I right?
That's right, frequently, yes, bright.
Well, I agree, and it seems to me that of the Japanese words borrowed from English, there are really three categories. There are some words that have the same meaning in both languages.
Oh, yes, there are a lot.
As an example, maybe typewriter or sofa. And I don't think those cause any problem.
No problem at all.
But then there's another category, and those are the words that have different meanings. For example, a feminist. And in Japan, it seems to mean a kind of a ladies' man or someone who's very polite and attentive to women. We wouldn't see it that way. We think of a feminist as being a woman or a man who's for the equality of the sexes. And always running to open the door isn't really part of that idea. Another might be a morning service in a coffee shop. I would have thought that meant going to church.
Church. And cunning is another example. Yes. Which in Japanese means cheating in an examination. But in original English, something is cunning, or when it's used as an adjective, it means something else, doesn't it?
To be kind of clever in a self-serving way. And then there's a third category of words that simply don't make any sense in English. Maskomi, for mass communication, or play guide, where we would probably say a ticket agency or a ticket outlet.
Yes, and another thing which struck me as very strange when I first heard it was mothercon.
Ah, yes. We wouldn't really be able to guess, would we, Sue, what that means?
No.
I think
maybe a mother convict in a prison or something.
That's right, yes. I think there are quite a lot of words like that. I remember some colleagues of mine telling me about our new wapuro, and I had no idea what it was going to be. So we'd say word processor. We have to use the full phrase.
Well, I think some of the ones that cause the most confusion are these words that are shortened. You take the first half of one word, or maybe the first half of two words, and put them together, like wapuro.
That's right, yes, where you've truncated two words and recombined them, they become really unrecognizable to the native speaker.
An obvious one, which is very commonly heard among Japanese businessmen, is kompe.
Oh, what's that?
Meaning competition.
Oh, competition.
And usually used in reference to a golf competition among the colleagues or friends. So they say something like, kondo kompe ga arimasu.
Oh, really?
But I don't think it's understandable, is it?
No, these are very confusing to us. But I think that what the learners of English here in Japan must be most careful about, they're the ones coming under the second category, which Sue mentioned. I think they can really be a major cause of misunderstanding.
Quite. The ones which make no sense are less dangerous, I'm sure, because by and large, the listeners are likely to ask the speaker to repeat or rephrase them if they don't understand what the other person is talking about. But if whatever we say is understandable in English, but if we use them with different meanings in Japanese, then that would be...
And they might not realize there's a misunderstanding.
So a good example is that we say ningen doc, or human being doc, meaning an annual or regular medical checkup.
Oh, really?
But the term doc is very rarely, probably not used in reference to any medical examination in English.
No, in fact, it sounds a little bit as though perhaps it was for the dock for ships, the dry dock where the ships were
I'm sure that came from that original word, but it's used in another situation. And what about saying denshi renji? And when I was in England, I couldn't understand. A friend of mine once at that time mentioned the microwave oven, but I wasn't familiar with the proper English, so it took me some time to realize what they meant by saying microwave oven is what we call denshi renji.
I think that's a whole group of words that's very confusing, because when we hear the word stove, we are thinking of the kind of appliance where you boil water or fry an egg or something like that. But a Japanese stove would be a heater. A room heater.
If we say gas stove or a gas stove, then it's always a room heater or radiator. It doesn't mean anything like
it took me a long time to catch on to that, though.
それで、実際には3つのカテゴリーに分かれるということを今お話ししましたが、英語でも日本語でも同じ意味になるものですね。例えばタイプライターであるとかソファーであるとかケースワーカーなんて言葉は同じですが、その場合には問題がありません。それから全然意味をなさないような場合、例えばマザコンと言っても分かりませんし、コンペと言っても分かりませんし、プレイガイドと言っても分かりませんが、そういう場合には相手の人が聞き返してくれますから、それほど問題はありません。で、一番私たちは気をつけなければいけませんのは、英語としては意味をなすけれども同じことを意味をしないという場合ですね。その場合にいろんな誤解が生じるわけです。そのいい例がフェミニストという言葉が日本語であの人はフェミニストですよと言いますと、非常に女性に親切な人というふうな意味に使われますが、英語の意味元の意味では男女平等を唱える人というふうな意味になりますね。そういうことにご注意いただきたいと思います。 Well, sorry to say, everyone, but that's all the time we have today, and I certainly hope you enjoyed joining us, and we'll be back with you again next time. Till then, so long.
Bye, everybody.
Cheerio.
担当は東後勝明先生。お相手はスー・ワンウィグさんとアントニー・ニューエルさんでした。英語会話を終わります。